Right. I believe you dropped K Sin on Ichiban as well, 96. What's going on with the label? And at this point, I believe you kind of walked away from the music. What was the decision to stop recording at this point?
Well, yeah, and then I'm sorry, I didn't also finish your question about Seatown Funk. That was the first time that, like I said, I had actually kind of like been on my own and shot the video the way that I wanted to, did all that kind of stuff. And Seatown Funk ended up being kind of a little bit of a runaway hit and went gold in Germany. And for some reason, Germany just really cling to that song. It was dope. But through the process of Seatown Funk and working with Ichiban and being on a label that wasn't in my city, where I couldn't just walk in the doors and be like, yo, what's up? And, Nasty Mix, man, they were just a cool little lean, mean machine in downtown Seattle where we could just literally pull up at any time, man. And then they started kind of going a little bit corporate and it got a little weird toward the end. But I mean, that was what they had to do. They were growing and it just kind of, we kind of grew in different directions. But the point being is that once we dropped Seatown Funk and started to establish ourselves into a rhythm with Ichiban, man, it was really cool because the AKA album, now it was like, okay, I've dropped Seatown Funk. I've gotten, I've kind of gotten my groove back a little bit because there was a long hiatus between, Power of Rhyme and Seatown Funk. And those 3 years, I was actually signed to Mix-a-Lot's label for a little while. And he had a deal through Rick Rubin and all this stuff it was just a lot of stuff going on. And then he couldn't get my record released. And so I ended up having to leave and then go to Ichiban. And, so it was just a bunch of stuff, craziness going on. But the bottom line is that once I dropped Seatown Funk and then it was time for AK Mr. K Sin, I felt like I was getting back into a rhythm. It was like, boom, 95, then 96, dropping albums back to back. And again, being out there touring, doing all that. But as history would have it, man, Ichiban started kind of going through problems just the way that Nasty Mix was, man. It was just like the owners, when you have small labels like that don't have like huge boards and huge, it's like you got just, an owner and his wife and maybe a couple of people that sit on there as the CFO or whatever. It's like there's not a lot of accountability, man, and a lot of policing, right? If Sin-seer Records is and Sin-seer is the owner, and you the CEO and you the owner and the head honcho and the president, you got all this power. There ain't a lot of oversight. There ain't a lot of Sin-seer got to answer to different people. So the bottom line is that there was a lot of mismanagement, a lot of stuff that happened because we were selling music. The records were doing what they had to do, but they just money management and those kind of things kind of ended up being the death of Nasty Mix and the death of Ichiban as well. And so, so it was just a process of just dealing with and going through all those ups and downs. And that's what I think kind of caused a lot of that lapse that happened to me walking away from the business for a little while, and a lot of soul searching. And then like almost at the same time as that happened, DJ Train from JJ Fad. You remember the group JJ Fad? DJ Train,
Oh, yeah.
he and I were real close, man. And he passed away in a house fire at the same, all this was happening at the same time. We lost Easy, all these different things just started happening, man. And it just was really kind of like, I needed to just kind of figure some things out for myself and figure out where I wanted to go in my life. My labels were, all this infighting and crazy stuff going on with Mix-a-Lot's crew, my crew, and labels and this and that and the other. There's all this stuff, man. And I just was starting to wonder, man, if it was all really, it just wasn't fun anymore. It wasn't enjoyable. I didn't have that kid-like joy of just jumping in the studio, releasing the tracks, going on tour, doing all these things. It just seemed like a lot of that was disappearing and changing.
Right. So where did you find yourself as far as, trying to support yourself? Did you pretty much were living off of past records, or were you, did you have to jump in the mix as finding like a 9 to 5 or anything?
Yeah. A little bit of a little combination of things happened, man. Yes, I did still get some stuff from and it was mostly BMI and those type of royalties, because once those labels filed for bankruptcy, the hundreds of thousands of dollars that they owed me went and it was gone, man. And so artists are usually the last people on the totem pole to get paid. If a record label goes bankrupt, they're going to take care of the first things first, and the artists usually end up getting the crumbs at the end if there's anything even left over. And so the biggest thing that I was able to walk away from those things was my masters, because that's what allows Back to Boom and C-Town Funk and all those songs to continue to send checks to me now, is owning my masters and being able to do publishing. And, I was able to license Back to Boom to the movie, The Paper Tigers. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie. It's a Kung Fu flick. If you haven't, go check it out on Netflix. There's
Absolutely.
my little plug
right
for
after this.
Paper Tigers. It's a great movie. It's a Kung Fu flick. It's called The Paper Tigers, and it's on Netflix. And it was actually released in theaters too. But they used the entire song of Back to Boom, like for the opening scene of the movie. And it's like, I grew up a Kung Fu fan and all that. And so watching somebody getting beat up and knocked out to my music, man, just fulfilled a couple of dreams at once, being on a soundtrack. And then, of course, karate and all that, that did it for me. But being able to license my music to commercials and to movies and to be able to do these kind of things, that's why the publishing is so valuable. And so it was great to get my masters back, great to own my publishing, and great to be able to retain, control over what I worked so hard to create. And so, yeah, man, it just was it's been a journey full of ups and downs, man, and learning lessons.
Right. At what point did you decide to get the music bug and start recording again?
Yeah, man. Well, it's funny. I never really stopped creating songs and music, man. A lot of people don't even know this, man. But I recorded several hundred songs during that time of, I have so much unreleased material, man. It's crazy. I could continue just dropping albums if I wanted to all day long. But a lot of it, it just was a thing of where I did the music because of just the love of the music. Kid you not, I've recorded so many songs that literally went no further than just my studio. And it was because I just, was a little bit disenchanted with the business and everything that was kind of going on. And I was doing a lot of soul searching and, just, I don't know, trying to figure out, man, what God's purpose for my life was on this earth. Cause I just I was lost, man, and trying to connect the dots. And so, I think, what made me start to reevaluate and start putting music back out was this phenomenon that I'll explain to you by just calling it the lull. And that is that when you come out as an artist, you're hot in the beginning, right? I mean, unless you're Drake or somebody, it's hard to stay hot for decades, right? LL Cool J, I think, was pretty successful for a long stretch, but most artists go through this thing we'll just call the lull. And that is where you're hot when you first come out, everybody's messing with you. But then there's a time where you're maybe a few years, past your stuff. And then it's like, man, nobody's messing with you. You can't get booked for a show. You can't get nothing happening. And so you're just kind of in this lull period. But then, as we know, things go in cycles. So after a few years, you become, I don't know what you would call more like classic, right? And then all of a sudden there's this resurgence of what you did. And so, and I give you this example of from Run-DMC, man. So DJ Run taught me one of the most valuable lessons that I had about hip hop and about music and about who I was as an artist. They got booked to come to Seattle at this show at a club called the Rock Candy. Small club, whatever the case is. And now you have to remember, Run-DMC has performed for hundreds of thousands of people, Wembley Stadium, Madison Square Garden. They have sold out arenas that have been 50, 100,000 people, right? And Run-DMC is an international superstars. And they're booking these guys in a club in Seattle that holds about maybe 200 people. And this was around 96-ish or whatever. And nobody was messing with Run-DMC. Right? I mean, it's just like, are you kidding me, man? Nobody messing with Run-DMC. So they booked them to come out to Seattle and perform at the Rock Candy. So that night, it kind of snowed a little bit. I mean, just a little dust up of snow in Seattle. So due to the kind of inclement weather, man, and then also the promoter not promoting very well, man, we get there to this show. It's me, Mix, and Run-DMC. And Mix walks in, looks around, like, yeah, man, if ain't no people coming, guess what? Ain't gonna be no Mix-a-Lot show. He bounces. And I go, well, shoot, man. I don't want to necessarily lead a promoter high and dry. Look, he booked me for a show. I mean, I guess I'll just try to fulfill my duty. I need the money. I'm just gonna do the show and do what it is I got to do. I shortened my show, did a couple of quick songs, did Back to Boom, whatever, C-Town Funk, and then just did a few songs, just kind of sheepishly, whatever. And let me tell you, the audience I was performing for, it was the promoter, his girlfriend, the bartender, and I think maybe one security dude. So it was about 4 people in the whole club.
Wow.
So I'm like, wow, man. Like, I mean, I done paid dues already. I done played for little crowds of 10 and 15 people. Man, what am I doing this? What's going on? And so I do my little thing and I get off the stage. So then it's time for Run-DMC to get up on the stage. And I hadn't even talked to them before the show on what they was going to do. I didn't know if they was going to perform or not. I thought maybe these guys, I might be the only entertainment they get. Jam Master Jay comes out. He's scratching on his turntables, warming up for about 5 or 10 minutes, whatever the case is. I'm like, okay, all right, And then DMC comes out, he's like, yo, what's up, y'all? Let's get to this, whatever. Okay, cool. And then Run comes out. He walks out, and you know how Run's energy was. He's always up, and And so Run said, let me explain something to y'all that are here. He said, we done rocked Wembley Stadium, 50,000 people. We done rocked Madison Square Garden, 100,000, we done did this, we done did that, naming off some of his accolades. We done won Grammys, we done whatever the case is. He said, but also, I ain't never gonna forget where I came from. We done performed in front of empty clubs. We done performed in front of this and that and the other when we was trying to get on and whatever the case is. He gives this little story and he says, so for the 1 or 2 or 3 paying patrons that came to see a Run-DMC show, you gonna get a Run-DMC show. Jam Master Jay, boom, he points to Jam Master Jay, checka, 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 and they just, it's like that. And I mean, these dudes start going into their show, and I'm talking about Run-DMC gave a show like they was performing in front of 1 million people, like it was the biggest, like they was on the Grammy stage. And I mean, these guys did a 45-minute set, pouring down sweat, going at it, whatever the case is. And man, I'm telling you, I and the few people that were standing there were just with our mouths just dropped at how much energy they came with and how they did this show. And when it was all over, man, I sat down, I was talking to Run, man. I was like, man, and he was like, man, don't ever, young fella, don't ever devalue your fans by giving them less than 110% of what you got. And from there, I was changed, man. I was changed, man. And even since then, I have done shows where the turnout hasn't been what it was supposed to be, whatever the case is. And I give them that same speech, man. Y'all came to get for a Kid Sensation show. That's what you're going to get. Let's get to it. And I give them everything that I got. And it has changed me since then, man.
That's very dope, man. I got goosebumps just listening to that story.
That's dope. That's dope.
But I definitely remember that time when, Run-DMC was on top. And then there was a time where they was opening, I believe, for Dr. Dre and Snoop on the Chronic tour. So they went from headliners to an opening act. And, they had to kind of, trudge their way back with Down with the King. But, they were at their, they had to fight their way back. So, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, once Run's house dropped, you know what I mean? They was on TV a lot more. And it definitely helped. And it helped them to resurge. And then they became classic, right? And then all of a sudden, man, it was like, oh, man, Run-DMC was back on top, back on the Grammys, back on TV, doing all those cool things. So, yeah, you're right, man.
Right. You dropped a couple projects the past 10 or so years. What kind of reaction did you get once you returned back to the scene?
Man, it's so funny. So I released a couple of albums, man, under Cola, under my own name. At first I was just like kind of running from this Kid Sensation thing. Number one, I was like, I'm not a kid no more. I'm a man, right? Yeah. And then number two, I was like, man, I've kind of changed. I've changed my life, man. I've become a parent, man. I've kind of, incorporated God into my life. I'm trying to be somebody different, man. And, I don't want to go back to this kind of stuff. I want to be something, kind of different. I want to evolve into something different. And so I dropped a couple albums, doing that stuff. And then people started to say to me, oh, I'm a little confused. Are you Cola? Are you Kid? Or, what's going on? And people were, and I was just like, well, this is who I am. But then my manager and people started to just kind of realize around me, say, man, why are you running from yourself? I was like, wow, that's kind of deep, man. I am running from myself. I really had to learn how to embrace who I was, embrace the journey that I went on, and for better, for worse, accept it and embrace it and let it be a part of my story, because a lot of people can relate to what I've dealt with and what I've went through as an artist and as a person, as a human being, when I start spilling them stories out. And so that's what ended up bringing me back to saying, you know something, Kid Sensation is a part of who I am. Be him, be that, be okay with it, and love it and embrace that story from the beginning to what it is now, man. And tell that story with all your heart and all your conviction, man, because I want for people, when they leave a show of mine now, or, you know, whatever, man, I tell all these different stories, man, from all the different tours or all the different this, or what it was like being in a movie and acting. And, you know, I didn't even talk about that, but there was a movie called Safety Not Guaranteed that I'm in. And it's my first speaking role in a movie. I got to actually act and, you know, do all that kind of fun stuff. And Kristen Bell is in the movie, and Jake Johnson, and Aubrey Plaza. A lot of really, you know, cool stars are in that movie. And so, yeah, Safety Not Guaranteed is out there too. You can probably catch it on like Apple TV or whatever like that. But, you know, anyway, all my point being is that I just want people to know, man, that I'm more than just an artist and a dude who just spits raps. I'm a dude who's multi-talented, and I've got multi different things that I do, from producing to acting to speaking. I'm also writing writing a book, and, you know, so all these different things that I do, man. You know, I just want people to understand that there's more to me than just, you know, the dude on the mic.
Very dope. It's 2023. Catch us up on what Kid Sensation is currently up to and what we can look forward to in the future.
Right on, man. Well, yeah. So the Presently Past the Future is the new album. A lot of people are into Feeling Myself and West Side and the songs that are on that album, man. And you know, a lot of what I did with this Presently Past the Future album, man, people are starting to finally kind of, it's getting traction and people are getting it. And that is that, you know, the album is titled Presently Past the Future because I'm taking the past and I'm honoring what the music was, and I'm bringing it to the present to point to what the future can really be. Because there's a lot of people that, you know, no disrespect, but there's a lot of people that are not really happy with the state of what hip hop is now. They're like, man, it just done turned into something different than what we originally started it out with and originally wanted it to be. It just has morphed into something completely different, man. And no disrespect, but like, you know, 5 lyrics, yeah, and repeating that over and over is a hit sometimes. And sometimes we just are like, oh man, can whatever happened to the beats and the rhymes and the storytelling and the scratching and the stuff that really made hip hop, the bars, man, like putting thought into what you wrote and like speaking out the truth and talking about the stories from the hood and the stories from life and love and all the crazy things that are happening, man. Whatever happened to hip hop representing the voice of the voiceless? What's going on? And so that Presently Past the Future is kind of a tip of the cap to what hip hop used to be. And then like the songs like Stank Face and West Side, you know, like bringing the West Coast back. It's like, I want to, man, relive, you know, some of those days and give people like us who really love that hip hop. It's like the only way we can get that hip hop is to go back and listen to our old albums and whatever the case is. So I was like, man, I'm gonna tip the cap to some of those old styles, man, and I'm gonna bring that stuff back and bring it in with a fresh, you know, 2020 twist and say, hey, man, let's show these cats, man, what the music is and scratch the itch of all these people that are clamoring for that music, man. People, 90s hip hop and 2000s hip hop, man, people are just bringing it back because they love it. They miss it. They just like, man, whatever happened to the music that we just, and so that's what this new album is about. And so we've been, you know, touring and supporting that, and, you know, and it's just lovely, man. Like I said, I'm kind of at that point of where now I'm a kind of quote unquote classic artist, man. And Crazy Bone from Bone Thugs, man, you know, he's, I'm down here in Dallas, man. And Crazy Bone was up there in Seattle. He's like, man, you need to get on a plane today, man. You need to be on stage with us. What's going on? You know, it's just so cool. Reconnected with all the artists, man, that are from you know, from the era, and just going, man, these guys are out on tour and people are supporting and they're loving it. They're coming out to these tours in droves, and Ice Cube and, you know, me and Dub C from you know, from Ice Cube, you know, WC in the Mad Circle back in the day, but now he's just
Right.
you know, these dudes, man. I'm always connecting with them, man, and always, you know, we're always trying to do new things and innovate and bring the hip hop to this younger generation that we grew up on, man, and show them that what we was doing was legit. And it's really cool, man. Like I said, the love that we've been getting, man, it's just been phenomenal. I enjoy being out with these artists. I enjoy connecting with them and, you know, trying to put together visions to bring this hip hop and bring that movement back. And so I've been recording the music. Like I told you, I've been doing some acting. I've been in a couple of movies, got a couple of songs placed in soundtracks, you know, a lot of really cool things. I'm in another movie called The Double, and I'm in Safety Not Guaranteed, so movies you can go check out. And Paper Tigers has Back to Boom that's placed in that, so make sure to check that out. Great kung fu flick, but it's also just a great movie. If you got young kids or whatever, man, take them. They will enjoy it. A young, old, everybody's like a family type story, but with a lot of kung fu action. You're gonna dig it. And you know, like I said, I'm also writing my first book. It's called Kings. Young men discovering purpose and shaping their destiny. So something that's near and dear to my heart, man, is young men and getting out here and teaching these young men that, man, you know, we gotta to step in the rightful place as kings that we are and stop running around here forgetting about the royalty that you are and conducting yourself and carrying yourself in a manner that's lower than who you are. You know, these young men are lost because they don't have any identity, man. They're lost because they don't know who they are. And I just feel like it's a calling on my heart to go out and start speaking to these young men. And, you know, because I'm a rapper, of course, too, the book got a soundtrack. So, you know, so it's going to be a soundtrack and a book. And it's really dope, man. I've got super, super dope people who King Griffey Jr. wrote a piece of it. His pieces in it. Jamal Crawford, you know, NBA superstar, his pieces in it. Jermaine Kearse, NFL, you know, player, he's got a piece in it. I've got all these different men who are successful and who are doing things in their own lane. You know, real estate agents, my doctor, all these different people, right? Because I told you I'm very inspired by entrepreneurs and people who do amazing things on their own and have amazing families that may not be celebrities, but I brought them all together to get wisdom from them, and they're all part of that book as well, you know, and I wrote about my experiences with them and they wrote their little excerpts. But my point being is that my life now, man, I spent the younger years of mine trying to figure out what I could get out of hip hop and what I could get out of the business and how I was going to come up and get rich and buy a big house and have big cars and have all this stuff. And then you have kids. You discover, man, that God's purpose is a little bigger than that in your life. You discover that there's a world outside of your little mind and your little bubble. And you start saying, man, you know, I'm entering this legacy phase of my life where I'm like, now what am I going to mean to the world when I'm gone? What am I going to mean to my family and my children? What am I going to mean to my community? What am I going to mean to this nation of young, you know, struggling, hurting people? What am I going to mean to the rest of the world when I'm gone, man? I want to be somebody who added value and helped make this, you know, this little place a little bit better, man. But then I found it.
Right. Very, very dope. The new project, Presently Past the Future, is out now. Where can the viewers find this project at?
Pretty much any and everywhere. If you want to order hard copies of it, man, you know, CDs are like an artifact these days. So go to kidsensation.com and please holler at me on social media at Kid Sensation and everything on IG, Twitter, all that stuff, Facebook, everywhere, man. And I'm one of those people, man, who literally will I'll answer you directly, man. Holler at me because I think it's just great to have that connection, man. And as often as possible, man, there's people who might filter my stuff from here and there, but I'm going to answer it all personally. And that's what it's about because it means something to me to have that connection to people so man, please y'all holler at me, man, at any time and ask me any question about business, personal. I mean, I've had people hit me up and be like, hey, so I got my son who's like into music and I grew up on your music, whatever, man. So could you maybe like it? I'm not sure. Tell me, man, I'll hop at it. Let's get to it, man. Let's talk, you know, because I care, man. And I want to make a difference in young people. I want to make a difference in everybody, man. And so if there's something that I've experienced that has some value or that'll add value to somebody else, man, I'm here for it.
Very dope. I want to thank you for the opportunity. I want to thank you for everything you've done for the culture. You've been a big influence on a kid from Indiana since the early 90s.
Bro.
Before we get out of here, last words for those who've been rocking with you since day one.
Well, I definitely want to just express gratitude, man. And I have not forgotten, man, that to those people who, whether they streaming my music now or whether they bought a CD back in the day or whether they're buying CDs now, whatever it is, man, whether they're listening, however they're consuming my music, man, I never underestimate the fact that someone has to if they're going to download my music or whatever it is, that they have to go to work, earn their money, and then they're willing to part with some of that money to support something that I created in a room. I walked into my studio, right, and it was silent and there was nothing but equipment sitting there. And I start powering stuff on, man. And all of a sudden, I start playing some notes, or I maybe start with some beats, or I start with something, and then I get on the mic and then I start scribbling some lyrics. And then this beautiful creation comes together, and somebody thought it was worth parting with their hard-earned money for, man. And I will never take that for granted, man. And the same with a live performance. If we ever get a chance to connect, y'all, and you get a chance and I'm booked in your town, I can't promise you I'll be the best artist you ever seen, but I promise you I'll give you the best that I got. Every fiber of my being is going into my live performance. And I work hard on it, and I work hard on my craft, and I'm gonna always put out the best quality, whether it comes to my book or my music or my acting or anything that I put my hands to, man. Thank y'all for rocking with me, because I'm going to give you my best. Check that Presently Past the Future album out and tell me if it's not legit, and if you can't listen to it from beginning to end and definitely hear my story and my life. Man, I talk about when my mother was abused by my stepfather, man. I go deep on that album, man. Not just about bringing back the hip hop, but it's also about telling the stories and being authentic and real about who I am and bearing my soul on my albums, man. And so for y'all that have been rocking with me, man, that's who I am, and I'm authentic. And I hope that you guys will see the authenticity in me, and that I'm just being the best version of myself that I can be. So thank you, Sin-seer, for this interview, man. I'm honored, and I never take for granted that you're willing to risk putting me into your mix and putting me in front of your fans and your listeners and your followers, man. That's an honor to me, man, because I know you value them, and you value putting good product and good, the best in front of them. So I hope that I can meet the standard. And I want to shout out to my family. I want to shout out to my agent, Nim Scarum. And like I said, y'all hit me up at kidsensation.com. You can always reach me there, man. And I'm the type that's personally involved. And a shout out to my lovely bride, who I think I heard walk in the door a few minutes ago. And my mom too. Mom is down visiting me for Mother's Day, so she's still hanging out. She'll be taking off in a few days. So just shout out to everybody, man. And to you, Sin-seer, man, and for what you're doing here, man. I love the fact that you're trying to keep the good music and the artists and everything like that in the forefront and alive, man. So I appreciate you, my guy.
Thank you so much, Kid Sensation. This has been History Lesson. I'm Sin-seer. That's Kid Sensation, and we'll see you guys again soon. Thanks so much.
Blessings, all. Thank you.